My name is Stephanie Shepard, and I'm the Manager of Reliability Programs here at PECO. Thanks for joining today to learn more about the STAR format, as well as ways and tips to succeed in your interview here at PECO. Today, we'll cover a couple different topics as part of this workshop. Overall, the purpose of this workshop and training is to help provide information beyond the standard principles of interviewing to ensure that you can be as successful as you possibly can for interviewing here at PECO or Exelon. So some of the things that we'll cover today is how to prepare for the interview, the difference between a virtual versus an in-person interview, some must-dos, some insight into the scoring process, as well as etiquette after the interview. First, let's learn a little bit more about PECO. PECO is part of a larger family named Exelon, and there are various utilities that cover the Mid-Atlantic region as well as Illinois. We provide here at PECO electric service within Philadelphia, as well as electric and natural gas services in Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and York counties. Unlike Philadelphia Gas Works, PGW, and Philadelphia Water Department, PWD, PECO is not owned by the City of Philadelphia. We have regularly made the Forbes Top 300 list of America's Best Employers for Diversity, America's Best Employers for Women, and America's Best Employers for New Graduates. You might be asking yourself, what are PECO leaders looking for? First, we want to understand if you can do the job. This might involve some of your previous experiences, whether you've worked at a utility, have managerial experience, responded in an emergency type situation, or you've worked in customer service. Next, we want to understand, do you have the ability to develop or support a strategic vision? Are you able to drive change or be a change agent? Next, we want to understand if you have any leadership skills. Although interviews are targeting a specific job, there's often considerations given to the candidate's ability to lead beyond their specific sphere of influence. Have you led a team before? Were you able to be a part of a team and have a small leadership role within it? And lastly, and probably one of the most important, is really just demonstrating the values. We have core competencies here at PECO and Exelon, and we want to understand if you're able to demonstrate a commitment to those things, such as safety, customer focus, community involvement, environmental stewardship, diversity, equity, and inclusion, operational excellence, and innovation. Talk about the difference between virtual versus in-person interviews. Regardless of the setting, an interview is an interview, so you want to prepare the same. However, there are some considerations to take with a virtual interview. Regardless if it's in person or virtual, you want to practice, practice, practice. Come up with 5 to 6 answers that you can adapt to any question and break them down into 3 segments: the situation, the action, and the result. We'll get into that a little bit later. Also, you might want to think about some additional leadership that you've experienced, whether that relates to safety, customer service, diversity, equity, inclusion, community involvement, innovation, any employee engagement, etc. Also, think back to those stories. Was there anything that you could have done differently? What did you learn from that experience? And also, make sure to avoid using acronyms unless you are entirely prepared to explain them. You want to prepare a 1-page memory aid to help you remember your practice and your stories. It's totally okay to come into an interview with that memory aid, regardless if it's in person or have it up on your computer screen if your interview is virtual. And last, dress for success. You want to make sure that you're wearing a clean shirt, pants, a skirt, or a dress, and it overall looks professional. So, now that have come up with your stories, you now want to try and put them into the STAR format. So you might be asking yourself, what is STAR? The first is S for situation. What was the situation within the story that you're about to share? Secondly, T as in task. What task did you have to accomplish? Third, what action did you specifically take in order to address that situation and task? And lastly, what was the result? Was it a successful project, or what did you learn? Did you make something sustainable from the experience? And what did you like from that experience? Once your interview is started, you want to make sure that you greet the interviewers with a smile and make eye contact. If you are at home doing a virtual interview, make sure you can reduce any unnecessary household streaming to optimize your video quality. If you're in person, make sure to bring copies of your resume. Regardless of the situation, show enthusiasm, be confident and energetic, and not be too overbearing. You want to make sure that you come across confident and capable for the job, but not be too aggressive. You might be asked to provide an overview of yourself, and this is really your opportunity to make a great first impression. Prepare 1 to 2 minutes of an overview of yourself. Why are you special, and what value could you add to the team? This might involve talking about previous experiences, your education, any collaboration, what you're passionate about. Just keep it high level. Then the interviewers will ask you a series of questions. You must interview in the STAR format, which we will practice in a little bit, and you want to highlight what you did. You want to use I statements only. Try to drive having your answer be completely in the STAR format, and you want to make sure that you're able to demonstrate your leadership and commitment to the core values that we discussed previously in order to get a great score on your response. Make sure that you sound authentic, important, make it measurable, quantifiable, and how you were being impactful. If you can't remember what the question was, or you might have misheard, make sure you use 3-part the question. It's totally okay to say, can you repeat the question for me? And take notes. It's okay to bring a piece of paper as well as that 1-page memory guide that we talked about in order to make yourself as successful as possible. Now let's walk through an example of a question and potentially an answer that you could use in the STAR format. So the question is around shaping vision and strategy. Tell me about a time when you were unable to help a customer. What was the issue and how did you handle the situation? So an example of how I might respond to this question in an interview would be first providing the situation. One time I was helping with storm restoration during a large storm and a customer called and was unhappy with their restoration time. The task at hand was to explain to the customer why it was going to take so long in order to restore their power. The action that I took was explaining to the customer calmly the amount of steps that it was going to require in order to restore their power. This involved getting and removing a tree, as well as rehanging the wire and addressing some broken aerial infrastructure. As a result, the customer then better understood the amount of steps that the crews needed to take in order to safely restore their power. While the customer was not as happy about the restoration time, they had a better appreciation for what our crews do and were happy when they were eventually turned back on. So you can see in my example, I clearly outlined what the situation was, the task at hand, the action that I took, as well as the result. In order to try and elevate that answer, I could have added something like what I learned from this experience. Something along the lines of, I learned that when dealing with frustrated customers, it's really important to make sure that you display empathy. Make sense? Awesome. Okay, now that you've nailed your interview using the STAR format, we need to wrap up the interview as well as take some next steps after your interview. So at the end of your questions, your interviewers will ask if you have any questions. This is your opportunity for a big close. Try to avoid those HR questions like asking what the work location is, start and stop times, things like that. And you really want to focus on why do you want this job and why are you a good fit? You really want to leave the interviewers with the impression and that solid understanding that you are the perfect candidate for the role. You want to make sure that you ask the interviewers some questions, which we have some examples on the next slide, as well as thank the interview panel for the opportunity to interview. If you can, grab their contact information, so then you can then send a thank you email. And in a couple weeks, if you haven't heard anything, it is appropriate to check in with the interviewer to see if there are any follow-up questions or next steps that you might need to take. And it's okay if you don't get the job. If you don't, try to learn from it. Ask for feedback as well as try to understand if there are any other opportunities that you might be a better fit for. It leaves a great impression if you ask some questions back to the interviewers to understand what the job entails. Some examples may include, what are 3 ways that I can contribute to this unit beyond the job description? How can I best contribute to the department's goals? How do you see me best contributing to the unit's morale? What do you see as the biggest challenges of working here, and how can I overcome those challenges? What is your vision for where the department will be in 1 year, 3 to 5 years? And how can I best help you and the team succeed? This shows that you're inquisitive and that you're interested in the position beyond just what you've prepared for the interview. Next, let's talk about Exelon and PECO's core competency. Now remember, every question will be related to one of these core competencies. First, let's talk about exhibiting courage. So exhibiting courage is defined as having the courage every day to do the right thing for colleagues, customers, and the organization, fostering a culture of safety through action and words, and hold self and others accountable for living the values. Now you may notice on the slide that there are 3 different buckets. If you're applying for a position that's an individual contributor, so you don't have any direct reports, you want to try to align your answer in that box with the behavioral anchors of an individual contributor. Now, as you continue to progress naturally through the company and you maybe become interested in becoming a frontline leader, you want to target your answers in that middle section. And if you aspire to be a key manager or an executive, your answer needs to align with the column on the right. The next core competency is around promoting and leveraging diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is defined as taking personal accountability to drive a culture where colleagues and customers are treated with respect and different backgrounds, experiences, and perspective are used to drive business results. The next is demonstrating adaptability. This is defined as demonstrating a positive attitude, resilience, and openness to changes in the work environment, processes, and structure. The fourth is around driving innovation. It is defined as leveraging alternative perspectives to deliver creative solutions that are safe, sustainable, and proactively impact our industry or organization and our customers. The next is leads, coaches, and engages talent. It is defined as creating and contributing to a development-centric work environment where employees are challenged, coached, and engaged. And last but not least, shapes vision and strategy. Develops a clear vision and strategies to achieve long-term sustainable business goals. So now that you've heard those 6 core competencies, let's walk through another exercise for the STAR format. Second example is around demonstrating adaptability. What was the biggest challenge you faced in going from working independently to being a member of a team? Tell me about how you dealt with the differences. What were the results? So an example that I might provide is, during the majority of my college career, I worked independently through my classes. However, my senior design project required me to work with various team members from different majors in order to accomplish our senior design project by the end of the semester. The task at hand was to complete all of the milestones that we identified before the end of the semester in order to get a good grade. However, since we were all from varying majors, we had different conflicting schedules, as well as we each had different strengths that we weren't necessarily sure how they all intertwined. So the action that I took was I asked each individual member to come prepared to a group meeting with what their availability was in order for the group to meet, as well as identify what milestones played to their strengths in order for our project to be a success. During the meeting, I delegated all of the tasks in order to make sure that every mini milestone had a specific owner, as well as made sure that everyone understood when the group would meet for us to collaborate. As a result, my team was successful. We met all of the milestones, as well as received a good grade on the project at the end of the semester. Now, one way that I might elevate my response is, from this experience, I learned that I really enjoy leading a group, and I actually prefer working in a group despite potential challenges as opposed to working independently. Now, the reason that I elevated my answer is to prove that I enjoy working with others, which is a huge part of any job. You definitely do apply. There are positions available right now at PECO, and you can see the hyperlink, and we'll now walk through how to actually navigate the website. Once you click on the site, you can actually look at careers that are available right now at PECO. If you have a keyword that you want to type in, like engineer or communication, as well as you have a location preference like Philadelphia, Warminster, etc., you can use that. But what I would recommend is you can actually filter on a job category. So you can see all the different available positions based on a job category, whether it's engineering, project management, customer service, different things like that, as well as we now offer free practice tests. So there are certain positions in which you need to take a test, like the Construction and Skilled Trade Selection System, or the CAST test, the Technical Occupation Selection System, the TEC test, or the System Operator and Power Dispatching, SOPD test. So you can click this hyperlink and you can actually access practice tests as well as brochures. And if maybe you don't see the perfect job for you right now, you can create a job alert, which will notify you via email when a job is available that meets the criteria that you've selected. So I really hope that this training today has helped you learn a little bit more about PECO, how to nail that interview using the STAR format, as well as how to leave a lasting impression. So with that, good luck and hope to see you soon.